Esiet sveicināti, Sargs.lv skatītāji. Krievijas iebrukums Ukrainā ilgst jau 11 pilnus gadus un 3 gadus kopš Krievija ir uzsākusi pilnu mēroga iebrukumu. Kas šajā laikā ir mainījies Ukrainas sabiedrībā, kā tās bruņotie spēki turpina cīņu pret Krievijas agresoriem un kā mums rietumos nodrošināt labāku palīdzību Ukrainai, par to mēs šodien runāsim ar Ukrainas vēstnieku Latvijā Anatolijs Kutselovs. Mr. Ambassador, welcome to the program. Full-scale war with Russia started in 2014, and now we unfortunately will see the third year of the full-scale invasion. Since the beginning of the war, we felt the big uprising of the Ukrainian nation, but now it seems that the fatigue has touched also the society and the guys in the armed forces. The situation, unfortunately, with this 155th Brigade, the news about the desertions there became public. This is just a one case, or we can speak about the trend that people are already tired. Of course, you mentioned that they do not have the right to be tired, but at the same time we see that yes, there is already some kind of a worrying signs already on the ground.
Well, I will also once again use different analogies for that. Yeah. It's like a battle between the David and the Goliath. When you see a big Goliath and think that he is really powerful and he might do everything possible until you get into a fight. And you see who is braver and who is emotionally ready. So no matter how good you are prepared, depends on the fight which you are staying in, how prepared you are morally. And sometimes the most prepared people, they got confused with the situation, with all types of shellings, bombings, civilian killings around, and that might cause for some people, even really professional soldiers, to actually leave their unit because it's a war. But for some people who are not even professionally prepared and they understand why they are there, they stay until the end. So the issue of having these people leaving their military units, it's well known. It's not probably only one case. It's an issue of different smaller cases everywhere, and depends on the situation, psychology. I remind myself of a story from 2016 when I've been in a train moving to the east of Ukraine. It was the issue of being near to the front line. I had to meet civilians who in self-governments who had to work on how to better build their communities there. And while being in the train, I met one Ukrainian soldier who actually was coming back to his military unit after some period of rest at his home. And he was telling me the story that there are some people who are soaring for 2 years, and there is 1 week left until the end of the period while being there. And the psychology works in that way that they don't want to risk their lives because they think that they almost completed 2 years of the of fight, and they don't want to risk, and they start to ask to have something lighter to do than just to go and to risk their lives in that way. So this is a psychology. And what happens? Yes, people have some fatigue, so they are tired, and they try to find a solution to that. And the Ukrainian side is also trying to work with them and give them understanding. But we also need new people to substitute them. And this is a difficulty also in modern realities, because you just cannot throw people there without professional preparation and not armored enough. So this is issue of substitution. That is why there are some cases. Probably 155 is a publicly known case of new people who joined actually the army, but not those who personally identified themselves to join the army at the very beginning. So this is about psychology. psychology, but it's not a risk for the army, and not in the margins, which we are talking in general as a war, when you have hundreds of thousands of soldiers fighting. So it's not an issue of few hundreds or even half a thousand.
Mm-hmm. Now there's going on the recruitment or the mobilization of the population of the Ukraine to fulfill the gaps in military of the Ukraine. How can you characterize this process? Well, you're okay with that, with the results that you have achieved, or they could be better?
Once again, in comparison to we are living in a third world war already. I mean, it's a hybrid one. No one wants to call it in that way. But
also here in Latvia, we live in the Third World War.
I guess hybridly everyone. So all of us, we joined the efforts to fight back an aggressor who started this for quite a long period of time. The issue is when did the Third World War started? So it should have been in 2008 or early, or in Syria, no matter. So it depends on how you look at the process. But in general, I would say that we are living in a hybrid period which could be actually called, and probably one might call it in their books, the Third World War. So we don't need to announce it globally to say that it's a Third World War. If we see a comparison to the Second World War, when everyone had to join the army because it was a must, and I would say there were less democracies in different countries than we have right now. So what we are focusing is also on people's rights, and to find a balance between all the procedures. First, at the very beginning, there were volunteers who were joining, and there were really big queues, both in Kyiv city, in the major cities around Ukraine, to joining the army. Then when the war evolves, and you have different outcomes of it, it becomes more difficult to have volunteers and to provide necessary equipment which has been promised. So you also rely on what has been promised, and when you don't have it on your training grounds, it becomes a difficulty what you have to do. And not in our case that we are throwing people like a meat, what Russians do, to just die because we need to stop the war. So sorry for this comparison with the meat, but it has been used several times by Russians. So and they also using examples from the Second World War, when they tried to do whatever they wanted because of the date, and they threw hundreds of thousands of soldiers.
Yeah, we can see that right now.
Yes,
already.
It's actually the same here. Yeah. And when everyone sees what is going on, it's a nightmare for a lot of madness. What is happening with a human being, or being thrown to this mass, and that's a problem for understanding. Yes, if it affects a lot, I mean, people's mind and understanding. They would like to have more assurances that they are trained enough, that it's a long period of training. Can we allow ourselves a long period of training? Are they motivated to get training? Do they receive enough equipment? What type of weapons do they have? Do they have heavy weapons like mortars? Do they have enough armor for themselves? This is an issue, always. And if you see last 3 years, it was always a difficulty to negotiate with different partners. Why do we need that type of equipment or not? And even if they see that political leadership, they are struggling in getting long-range weapons, which might help soldiers also not to be shelled by controlled aviation bombs. That means that they also think that, okay, I will be there, but no one is trying to do something with aviation. So this is a problem. And that affects probably the issue of conscription and the volunteers. But I would say we don't see the problem in numbers of people who might be recruited. We have quite a big number already recruited in the Ukrainian army, but we see the problem of having enough weapons and instruments to prevent. And those are not only for infantry. It's not an issue only just of infantry. It's an issue of having long-range weapons used. It's having aviation. It's having enough air defense systems. This is what matters. So because of that, you're spending a lot of resources on civilian infrastructure, on civilian issues, instead of working only with the military. And if there are some other issues which are led to psychology, they're always there. So you have also to consider how to live in a situation when you are 24/7 shelled, including this morning when we had shelling over Kiev with ballistic missiles. It also affects a lot. So when you see a working chat that people are texting you 4 a.m., because it's normal, they do not sleep anymore after shelling, and they're just texting and working messages. So this is the reality, and that affects a lot of people.
If we talk about international support to Ukraine, to what extent does it continue, and don't you see the trend of the diminishing of the international support, especially when we talk about the new administration of the United States? President Donald Trump already announced that he wants something back from Ukraine for supporting it. Also, in Europe, we also facing this problem that our facilities where we hold the weapons, they're empty right now, and the industry of the arms production cannot catch them.
Well, this is probably the last few words where a clear answer to what we should do. Issue is, and the stage where we are, it's not the stage to discuss how bad we were last 3 years in setting up industry. Is probably the issue, what should we do in order not to have it? So first of all, the answer, all our storages should be full. And our defense enterprises should be working 24/7 in producing necessary weapons. New enterprises should be created, and the production should be increased. That's what Ukraine started to do from the very beginning of the war, and we reached that we have almost 40% of our internal production of what we use. So it means that we are using 40% of overall weapons which we have on the ground made in Ukraine. So this is a clear answer for everyone. Unfortunately, as it's linked to the issue of this Third World War and the hybrid format, when everyone should be capable to defend itself because of any probability of a war. And the issue of having enough in storages is one. Second one is to increase expenditure from GDP percentage on defense. And by the end, all of us will see that this is a prevention. What Ukraine tries to reach with the partners, that we need to set up necessary production both in Ukraine, but also increase it in Europe as a nearest partner, and to be capable to prevent. So we should not rely only on other partners, and American support is crucial. And it would be a quite big challenge for Europe to maintain the situation and to control the borders with such aggressor as Russia. If we do not do anything with investment in the military production. A human being in a democratic world will decide, why do I need to invest in the defense industry while I have to invest in education, healthcare, etc. But there is another issue on the ground, the same one which we started this interview with. If you see that you are a survivor, and if you invest some part of your resources, you have an income of 1,000 euro per month, and you need every month to spend 50 euro for your self-defense, it means that you need to spend it because it's a prevention. And you know that you are doing it as like a life insurance.
Yeah, it's such a same, basically the same service as I don't know, healthcare, as social affairs. It's basically, let's say, your insurance, how to survive and to keep on living. If we talk about the peace process, there is already some kind of announcements from from the new office of the President of the United States, and some points also have been voiced that should be fulfilled by Ukraine. For example, territorial losses, giving up NATO demand, holding new elections, allowing also to participate some pro-Russian parties. How acceptable these conditions are for Ukraine? Honestly.
Well, I guess for people who might be listening, it's not something new. So you 24/7 can read everywhere both statements from the White House, different representatives, exchanges of different tweets and public statements by Russians. Also, President of Ukraine is quite vocal, and Minister of Foreign Affairs are vocal on a daily basis, giving information to partners. So far, we don't have peace talks itself. I mean, some discussions on different sides, and somebody is throwing different messages, what might be there and what not. The most important is that there is a will in 2025 to stop overall fighting, but on one condition for Ukraine. The condition is that we should stop it and to have a stable peace for future, and not to reopen the war. So this kind of condition could be achieved with full commitment and responsibility. Unfortunately, to all those who are listening, we have really bad experience. And that experience is...
We remember the Minsk agreements, yeah.
Minsk agreements is something what has been recently made, but for us was a Budapest memorandum.
Indeed.
So for all Ukrainians at that moment, living at the beginning of 1990s, to understand that we just withdraw from nuclear weapons, but also from a lot of weapons, because then we would guarantee. That means for us that it was quite a difficult stage. And if no one is talking about Budapest memorandum right now as something what has happened recently, that means that this is a quite challenging issue, 30 years. And 30 years after of it, you don't have guarantees, so you have to guarantee something else or trade something else. So it's a bad signal for everyone. So what should be a guarantee? And a guarantee is a permanent presence of the army, capability to fight back, but also responsibility not to reopen. As for the territories, there might be a diplomatic solution for that. It's better to wait years to have discussions, including Crimea and other territories, than to have losses of people, resources, and overall madness around the world. But, as I said, no one is trading anything right now. There is Ukrainian constitution which is in place. No one is in charge to say that we are withdrawing territories. It's not possible. Ask yourself, being in your country, who is in charge to say it at that one moment that you can withdraw territory because a bully came to this territory?
No one.
No one. So it's ask yourself what you're gonna respond in case you would have been asked. And the majority of Ukrainians would like to have all our territories back, and it's normal, and it's a reality, and it should be in a democratic country in that way. Why? Because there should be always a reason for that. There is no reason for any discussions on language. A lot of Ukrainians which are speaking different languages, not only Russian. It's an issue of also Romanian, Hungarian, Slovak, Polish, and whatever. But no one has this argument in the discussion in the era. So that's a question. I mean, there is no ground for it. So peace talks, they should happen, and we want them. And President Zelensky several times mentioned different ideas and solutions. One is NATO membership, another one, if not, nuclear weapons. Why we are saying that? It's not because somebody would like to use it against somebody. Because what we are trying to have, we would like to have guarantees.
Insurance.
And insurance. Yes. And it's not a matter of how it's called, memorandum, letter of intent, no matter. Real guarantees. Guarantee is that a kid living to the front line in its home city or the city village which his previous 3-4 generations lived in would like to not to hear any explosions and would like to live on that territory. This is a real guarantee, but not something that might be discussed again after several years or decades, that it's not your territory or it was not your 200 years ago or 300 years ago, and who was the first and who was the last.
Mm-hmm. The many experts believe that in case of the some kind of a ceasefire or some kind of a peace agreement with the Ukraine, Russia will regain its forces and start to threaten to another neighbors, particularly to the Baltic states and Finland or Poland. Now we already see that there is some kind of a campaign of the damaging of the undersea communication cables in the Baltic Sea. You experienced the Russian, let's say, preparation for the war before the 2022. If you look on these cases that are happening right now in the neighboring countries of Russia, what do you see?
Well, I personally think that strong Ukraine and strong partners, this is a guarantee for all of us to prevent anything in future. And we should enter all peace talks in a strong position to keep peace for a long period of time until there is a full understanding that the society in Russia should change, and to actually understand the principles and the responsibility for what they have been doing for last years.
The reparations, we're talking about the reparations.
I'm talking about in generally as such kind of understanding which was in Germany for quite a long period of time after Second World War. Mm-hmm. And Russians should understand their responsibility. I mean, not political leadership, but in general society, on what they actually have been supporting. And this is first element. Second element, for sure, if we keep such neighbor in a strong position, which is militarizing, we should militarize ourselves, and we should be ready to any provocations. And the only answer is not to dismount our union or NATO. We should strengthen it and have better understanding. So when Sweden joined NATO, it was a really good signal. Unfortunately, we missed the opportunity in 2008, and it should have been a better answer in that period of time. So we will be in 2028, almost 20 years from that failure. Such kind of actions might repeat. They would repeat if we are not giving to Bali a real answer. So, and if you are hesitating, that they definitely will try to use it.
Mm. In the conclusion, I would like to start. I would like to let's say go back with the things that we start. The retired commander of the NATO forces in Europe, Lieutenant General Ben Hodges, in one interview to me said that Western countries, especially the European Western countries, have to recognize that we are already living in the conditions of the World War III against Russia. Why majority of the Western European countries do not want to recognize this harsh reality, in your opinion?
Well, once again, he's confirming my words about
He already confirmed that some 2 or 3 years ago.
Probably I would say that it's not about only Europe and not only about Russia. So it's my clear understanding on who is joining the process. We forget about North Korea and what is happening with North Korea and other like Iran, and this is it. The issue why they do not want to loudly say it is probably we used to live in a really good realities and a peaceful time, and no one wants to accept the realities that publicly that we are living in the Third World War. But in fact, the support which is provided also gives a clear answer that they understand. Either we're not understanding that, there shouldn't have been a support. So I don't think that the issue is in why do not they say about it. The most important, what do they do? And what are our actions? So we can always talk about retrospective of what has happened last 3 years, 11 years, and then what has happened in 100 years, including what has happened here in Riga as a Russia, Ukraine, and Poland peace treaty when we lost our independence here. In fact, and a copy is in the Black Hat's house on the first floor. And then what has happened like in 18th, 17th century in Cossack era when we dominated the eastern part of Europe and there were free people, and how the Russians tried to actually vanish us from our territory, whatever. So you can see it. In retrospective, you can understand only examples and get an experience. The most important is to understand what we are going to say next and what we are going to do next. All efforts are right now made by Russians is to demolish the unity. So what we should do is probably not only what to say, is only to do, is to be stronger, to create a stronger Ukraine, to control all the borders in a stronger way, including Baltics. And the support should come not only from northern and eastern flank, but support should come definitely from South Europe, Central Europe, and having a real good understanding on what our overall responsibility is. And it's not the issue of Latvia and Latvian borders, it's the issue of overall European security. That's what I do believe the most important. Not comparing to what General said, it's not probably the problem why they don't want to talk about. There is also patrimony of Second World War. And it's also the issues which we have discussed there, the Cold War, etc. No one wants to realize it. But the most important what we do.
Okay. Ambassador of Ukraine in Latvia, Mr. Anatolijs Kutselovs, thank you very much, sir, for your time. Thank you very much for your interview, and Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава, paldies!
Thank you.